Are we alone in the universe, or is there a chance to find life on other planets? If yes, what forms can that life have? We'll now try to find this out together with astrophysicist Vladimir Hayrapetyan. Greetings, Mr. Hayrapetyan, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to discuss the search for life on different planets. And first of all, I would like to understand why are we looking for life on other planets? After all, we have a lot of problems on our Earth, and will the search for life help to solve those problems in any way?
People ask this question for thousands of years. So they're looking up in the sky, looking for answers, searching for gods, searching for the future, and searching for humans like us in the sky. So that's why all gods are human-like. And so basically, there are some kind of aliens also from that point of view. And this is the question of fundamental importance, because we want to know whether we are alone in this universe, or life is just a fundamental entity, is a phenomenon that is spread all around the universe. So this is the question that can change our view on ourselves. What is our place in this universe? Why are we here? What happened before us? What's going to happen after us? Is there a life on Mars? Because if we find life on Mars, that will be a revolutionary discovery of all times. So you wouldn't even in the history of our civilization. Where are we heading to? That's the question that we have.
Do you personally believe that there was once life on Mars?
Yes, I do. Mars, it shares the same kind of chemistry, the same kind of life ingredients that we see here on Earth. Actually, in some sense, like this kind of chemical element called boron, is 10 times more than here on Earth. And one of my collaborators, Stephen Banner, even claims that the life came from Mars first and was transferred to Earth later on, because the conditions are so good. So the reason that we don't see life on Mars today, because Mars is now a completely different planet than 4 billion years ago. At that time, Mars was really wet, very friendly, with nice atmosphere, you probably could breathe. So we have a lot of evidence that Mars was a completely different planet, very friendly to life. And more we study the phenomena of life, the more and more we understand that life is kind of like a state of matter. Like you have, liquid state, solid state, gas state, plasma, very hot gas, which is 99.999% of the whole universe. So life is some kind of a combination of all those four together that can create, which is the kind of chemical state. So you create certain molecules that start to multiply and copy itself and follow and live its own life. And that's what's interesting. It's completely new and explored topic. So we learn about ourselves. It's that life learns about life. Whereas the life form now learn about life, about bacteria and about ourselves, and trying to understand whether we are the only chemical structure or we can have different other structures which can function like life as we know.
If there was really life on Mars and then it transferred to Earth, how could that happen? Maybe there were some asteroids involved or something?
Yeah, it can easily happen because, on Earth we see so many Martian asteroids, meteorites. So especially we find those meteorites in Antarctica or in the desert, in Sahara Desert. Because normally you cannot find on the streets of Yerevan or New York City because so many other rocks. But if you have just homogeneous area, like ice only, right? And then you see some black rock. Mm-hmm. Of course, where would you see the black rock in Antarctica? Only from the sky. And then you do chemical analysis, and we know the chemical composition of Mars. We know, oh, that's a Martian meteorite. Or, oh, this is the meteorite from the moon. So we have a lot of meteorites from the moon, we have a lot of meteorites from Mars. And we see some other meteorites, not from Moon or from Mars, some kind of very, very ancient meteorites that were formed at the time when our solar system, when our planet was formed. I'm talking about 4.6 billion years ago.
Let's also try to understand what do we mean when we say life on other planets.
This is a very fundamental question that is hard to answer because we don't have a single definition of life. Different people prefer different viewpoints, different approaches, but NASA has one definition. It's a chemical system that can reproduce itself, that follows Darwinian evolution. It copies itself. Some copies can be slightly different than the previous one. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. And those copies that are not very good for the environment, they die, and only the fetus survive. And those fetus, they multiply later on again and create, other species, other copies of itself, and the better ones survive. So that's why, for instance, when I see a newborn baby today, I see that's the best model. It's like the latest car model, because that's the best of our humanity. It has the best traits to survive in Earth environments.
So are both needed? Ability to reproduce and ability to evolve?
Exactly.
One isn't enough.
No. One is not enough because in order to continue, you need to reproduce. But evolve is important because we live in a constantly changing environment. A few million years ago, the Earth was different. So the carbon dioxide level goes back and forth. The temperature goes back and forth. From time to time on Earth, we have the ice ages or warm periods. So we have different effects, like from the sun, some flares. The rate of ionizing radiation varies. So we have to evolve in order to adapt to those conditions. If you don't adapt, you die. So evolution is just a natural way to adapt and to continue to survive.
What are the chances that we can find, intelligent life somewhere?
At least 10 billion stars we have. That's like our sun in our galaxy. In average, every star has at least one planet. Okay, so that means that you have at least 10 billion planets around stars like our sun. And that's only in our galaxy, but we have 100 billion galaxies, at least in the universe that we can observe with the Hubble Space Telescope. And now with the new telescope, we're probably going to observe more galaxies. I'm pretty sure that we have many opportunities for life, many different worlds where life can start. But another question is, you can start life with bacteria. And then, it took for Earth 2 billion years before life started to, evolve from a single cell, just a small bacteria, to multicellular, to some very primitive microorganisms. And only recently, only 500 million years ago, it's so-called Cambrian explosion, when life started to become really complex, like creating plants, animals. It's only 500 million years, imagine. So 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth started, and that's like 1/10. It's like 10% of life, of the recent history. We have life as we know it. And humans appeared over the last just a few million years. More and more I study these questions about the evolution from the primitive, from the bacteria to us. I'm asking a question whether this is just a normal process of evolution, and the more and more I understand it's not. Because, for instance, 56 million years ago, when the meteorite struck the Earth, he killed the old dinosaurs, right? And the dinosaurs roamed the planet at that time. They were the major species. The plants were abundant, the food was abundant. Of course, they like it. That was kind of like Hawaii for them. But after this catastrophic event, the Earth had something like a nuclear winter. So the climate changed for hundreds of years, and of course, that there were huge creatures. And why they were huge? Because, the abundant food and no enemies. If you don't have enemies, you don't have to evolve that much. So you become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? You have a lot of food, you don't have enemies. And imagine that if you have enemies and don't have enough food, you just have to move a lot. Right? And so you have to be smaller because you need to be faster in order to find food. That's what evolution is all about, to adapt. Yeah. Otherwise, this animal is going to die because he has to provide for his kids. They have to find the food, bring back to kids. So that's why, so that wasn't the question for dinosaurs, because they were mostly eating plants that time, and the plants was abundant. And imagine one day everything dies, no plants, so they're also pretty big, they also die. And imagine who survived. Small rodents, like mice. And then, you know, the evolution went another way. They created us. So due to this accident. Because before we had basically small guys, those rodents, and big guys, dinosaurs. We didn't have anything in between.
Now we are the thing in between.
So we are in between, right? So this catastrophic event was very fortunate event for us. Because of that, evolution created us. It's like a blind experiment, because evolution doesn't know anything about it. It's just everything happens by chance. So today is one animal, tomorrow is another animal. So a bit like so many tens of millions years ago, you know, because of, again, environmental factors, because of the environment, evolution created only big guys and small guys. And then later on, medium-sized guys like us and other animals. So we appeared as humans only, you know, we divided from primates about 6-7 million years ago. Only. We know that for sure because we look at the genetic code, and the genetic code has all the information about everything else. So when you look at the single bacteria, and we have those single bacteria existed 4 billion years ago, and they have the same DNA that you have, that I have. And that's why we know that so-called last universal ancestor, common ancestor, common for everybody. Myself and banana has about 65% of DNA. We are a result of the cosmic accident. So we don't have to be here. And that's why probably life shouldn't be that, I mean, complex life, like us, shouldn't be common, because so many conditions should be met. Imagine that we live in a very dangerous place. The universe is a very dangerous place. So we're surrounded by the sun. Some stars are much more active than our sun. Some stars are more dynamic, and others a little bit quieter. Those dynamic stars, they erupt. They create ejections, and those ejections can be pretty dangerous to humanity. So the super flare will definitely occur, might be in the next 10 years, might be 100 years, but definitely in the near future. And will be really, you know, will create conditions much, much worse than COVID. COVID will be just a small, tiny problem. It's just introduction to humanity's survival 101. So studying the universe around us, especially over the last 20, 30 years, changed our understanding of the surrounding where we live. It's like a cosmic jungle, and which so far we were lucky that, you know, nothing bad happened. But definitely will. So that's why, you know, Elon Musk is trying to move out to Mars, because he says that we need to have a backup plan. We need to have a backup planet in case if something happens, so we will have a planet to escape to. If you sum up all the factors, the probability of having those so-called advanced civilizations
pretty low.
Pretty low, yes. I would love to see a lot of them. Yeah, I'm an optimist, but at the same time as a scientist, I have to be a realist, and I have to rely on numbers. You multiply the probability to have single-celled organism like bacteria, and then multiply by the probability of appearance of the multiple-cell organism, many-cells organism, and we still don't understand, for instance, why photosynthesis started, why we have oxygen, why do we breathe in oxygen? Because oxygen is very, you know, toxic gas to us. We evolved. If you breathe in too much oxygen, it's going to be bad for you. So, because we evolved with 21% of oxygen. We still have some bacteria at the bottom of the ocean. As soon as you bring it to the atmosphere,
they die.
They die immediately, because they don't know what oxygen is. And that's because the Earth didn't have oxygen in the first at least 2 billion years, about half of its life. So, and then something happened, which we still don't understand, and maybe that's another cosmic accident. So we have to calculate the probability. What is the chance? You know, chance of that times chance of that times chance of that. So if you multiply all the small numbers, the multiplication of small numbers gives you even smaller number. So that's why, you know, the question is that, oh, okay, even though we have billions of planets, is the number is like 1 out of trillions or 1 out of the billions? Is that, so can we find like one civilization, or we can find 100 civilizations? That's one question. But the second question is, how fast the civilizations evolve? Because us, at this level of sophistication and technological development, we can do so much. I mean, we can send the signal to space and look for the response back. If somebody gonna detect us, notice us. Some scientists believe that it's dangerous. Stephen Hawking, for instance, he believed that, oh, no, we don't have to bother aliens. If they find us, they're gonna kill us. I don't believe so. And there is a reason why I don't think so. We're gonna become an alien one day. And I can bring some arguments what kind of alien we will become. The structure that we have today, 2 hands, 2 legs, 1 head, it's all just a product of the evolutionary development, because that was the easiest way to survive, easiest way to run from a lion, easiest way to grab the food and to bring it to kids. But now we don't have to grab food and bring it, so we don't need actually 2 hands. We can rely on some mechanisms or robots eventually, right? It's coming. We don't need to run, so we can sit and enjoy. And then, you know, microscopic robots. We have those kind of robots at MIT, people doing experiments. You put in the bloodstream, and they can go in the bloodstream, like in the river, and they can clean the blood. So that means that you don't need to have a liver or kidneys, or if you don't need to deliver oxygen to your arms or your legs, then you don't need blood to those organs, and you don't need heart, because heart is just a pumper. It's just pumper. It's just mechanical structure that pumps and delivers, blood, creates the pressure, basically taking it to all your parts. So the only thing that you need is brain. Because all we are is our brain, because everything that I am, it's all I'm imagining about myself. Imagine when you were a kid. You had completely different personality when you were like 5. You didn't have the same idea about yourself as today.
Yeah, of course.
And when you were 16, you were completely different than 5. So now that you're a mature person, you're like a alien number 3. So you are like alien number 1.1, then 2.0. That's a completely different modification of you. Yeah, and then now it's a third variant. And when you're like 60 or 80 or 90, you will be a completely different person. So imagine that people evolve, their ideas about themselves and about their abilities, about their hopes, about their fears evolve too. That means that we also change. That means that we cannot say that, oh, I have the same personality. No, the personality moves. But imagine that if your brain, my brain, and everybody else's brain, 7 billion brains or 10 billion brains, let's say in the future, are connected, are interconnected in one database. So we share a lot of experiences. We share in a lot of personalities, and we can grab whatever we want to try and mix. So for instance, tomorrow you want to try to play Bach or Beethoven, or you want to try to be a Sarian. Or day after you want to be Tchaikovsky, or you want to be a scientist, or you want to be somebody else. You want to create something new out of so many different possibilities, because now we're prisoners in one brain, in one body. But imagine that you have all the opportunities that you may have. So the life will be much more mature, because again, in my opinion, we are what we're imagining about us. And all those processes have a biochemical nature. If a person gets injury during the automobile accident, gets into the accident, and part of the brain gets paralyzed. So he doesn't have opinion about himself or herself anymore, right? Or completely different opinion. So it means that our opinion, our personality can change dramatically in a fraction of a second. So we're different, we're aliens. So I'm saying is that the brain is the major controlling organ. And if I imagine by somehow we'll share, your ideas about life, and you will share my ideas about my scientific life or some other thing, that will be much richer. For instance, just recently I traveled to Italy and I went to Uffizi, a beautiful museum, you know, that Renaissance era. And I have so many things to talk about. So imagine that if you can easily extract my experience about it, and it will become yours. You will be much richer. You don't have to go through it, because all those snapshots, all those movies in my brain, they are stored, right? They are stored in a memory. So, and imagine that if you can get this, not from the say that, oh, professor, can you download it and send it by email? You can get it by yourself through the shared network. That would mean that we will become one entity, one humanity. And in this case, imagine that if it is the case, then there is no place for hate, and there is no place for killing each other, and no place for killing other civilizations. Imagine that tomorrow we're gonna build a base on Mars, right? So we're gonna have like a whole entity, let's say city. So let's say we have, let's say 1,000 people, okay? And so people are born on Mars, those young Martians, okay? They go to school, and I'm not telling them about wars. I'm not telling them about Christian wars when hundreds of millions of people died. I'm not telling them about the World War I. I'm not telling them about the World War II. They don't know that people can kill each other. I can brainwash them, and I can tell them that people only cooperate.
Returning to the topic of searching for life. Usually when we say search for life, we also mean search for water. Is water really important for the existence of life? And can we imagine some forms of life that do not require water?
Let's talk about this, organic life, the life as we know it, to bionic life that I just talked about. So for the life, starting from a single-celled organism like bacteria to the life of plants and animals and us, we need water. Because water is the major solvent of biochemical reactions. So it's such an abundant compound, abundant molecule. It's everywhere. We find water on the moon in the frozen state. We find abundant water on Mars. We find probably water in the satellites of Saturn and Jupiter. So it's such a simple molecule that combines two atoms of hydrogen, the most abundant and the simplest chemical element in the universe, with oxygen, which is the next most abundant. So it's the two most abundant guys decided to get together, create a small family, okay? And that's water. And it just happened to be that when at certain temperatures, when it's in the liquid state, it has such certain properties that dissolves molecules and makes metabolism works better. So that's why from that point of view, from the molecular point of view, yes, you do need water. But if you are at some point, again, I'm going to bionic, I would imagine that at some point, if you're technologically advanced, you wouldn't need water, you would need only energy.
What kind of energy?
Electromagnetic energy, light energy, energy from light, that will be directly converted into the energy of your brain. That's completely possible.
But can't we imagine any form of life that does not need water?
We have another liquid called formamide. Formamide is the combination of some molecules of water with the hydrogen cyanide. It has the atoms of hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, and part of the water. So we know from experiments, it's also a pretty good solvent. So not only water. So yeah, you can have, but you need something like liquid thing. You need a liquid solvent. So yeah, water is the most abundant. And we go from abundant elements.
What if we are actually totally alone in the universe? What if there is no other life anywhere?
Yes.
What if what we have here is something truly unique?
It can be, and it's okay with me. have many friends on planet Earth. You know, we have 7 billion people on this planet, and we study the universe. And if we're special, that's fine too. Of course, I want to have find, you know, some other relatives, you know, brothers and sisters, but they can be completely different, right? Some bionic or something very different from me. And you know what normally happened. You have your certain imagination about humans, and then you see some living form that doesn't match your image. Then you become scared. And become scared, you want to kill. Or whatever. You feel that it's dangerous to your survival, and you want to protect yourself. But again, if you are a bionic form of life with the shared and distributed network, you can quickly find ways to avoid the scare and to start communicating. So again, this is how many personalities you can go through, how many different images you can compare and fuse together and create something new. That you're going out of your own body to all other, not body, but brains, of course. Body is just a physical shell.
Thank you so much for this interesting talk.
Thanks for great questions. And the one thing that I want to say at the end of our conversation, we all have to unite. I mean, I would be the happiest moment of my life will be to see, if I see it, that something really, you know, bad happens to our planet. And all nations unite. And they will forget about wars, because they will understand that there is a greater enemy at the planetary scale. And we need to unite our brains, we need to unite our technologies, we don't have to talk about nukes, atomic bombs, and then unite our capabilities in order to think how to win, how to survive as humanity. Not as a single person, not as a single family, not as a single nation, but as a single civilization. That's all I want to say. Thank you.